Yeah. And a lot of the training I've noticed that you've been doing lately, especially with the athletes you've been coaching, have been very sport specific, engaging things like post activation, potentiation.
Oh yeah, yeah.
How long have you been into that style of training and using those training methods?
On and off my whole life. It's just that I've never talked about that stuff. I mean, the PAP that you talk about is the fundamental belief I have in training athletes. It's a great way to teach your athletes how to develop force.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're training athletes, you have to have, for the athlete has to be able to absorb force and transmit it, turn it around, and use it very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have someone, for instance, that does depth drops off a box, if they land and you see their body just kind of shake, they're kind of losing all that power. But if they land like a rock with a real good isometric contraction, they can turn around and explode, and they can turn that energy into explosiveness. And I love that because I was also a track and field athlete, and I was a football player,
Mm-hmm.
and I was studying that stuff back then. When I trained at Louis, Westside Barbell, Louis had me read a lot of the Hansky, Yuri, and all those guys, and Mel Siff and all those guys. So, those books, what they talked about, they had I always hear Louis to this day in my head, force equals mass times acceleration, So, that developing force stuff. And now you see guys like Chris Beardsley is talking about the speed of contractions and how that's applicable to athletes, and it's different than bodybuilders. And that's always been very clear to me, but I don't, you don't see bodybuilders who, for the most part, you don't see people that understand hypertrophy training that have an equal understanding of training an athlete, because they're two totally different methodologies.
Mm-hmm.
They're very, very different.
Right.
So I like the athletic type stuff. I just don't have a lot of people I work with. One of the guys that I've done some work with, I'm actually going to see next Thursday. He plays for the Titans, and they got a Thursday night game.
Mm-hmm.
We're actually driving to Tennessee to see him play. But
Cool.
I like doing that stuff. I really like working with kids.
Mm-hmm.
I like to work with kids, and you can see their coordination as it gets a little better and a little better.
Mm-hmm.
You can see their broad jumps get a little better. You can see their body's ability to absorb force is getting better. And to be a good athlete, you have to be really good isometrically. One of the interesting things about bodybuilders is I feel like bodybuilders have a very good understanding of eccentric and concentric contractions.
Right.
We're very good about understanding to control the eccentric.
Mm-hmm.
We're very good about that. And concentrically, we're pretty good about that too, I think. But bodybuilders don't typically do much isometrically. And the guy that I saw using isometrics the way I use them was Tom Platz. That's who showed me.
Yeah.
Tom would do an isometric where it wasn't just sitting there holding a dumbbell, curling it. It was actually holding it while somebody else pushed down.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to produce the maximum amount of force in an isometric position that you could.
Right.
That's a devastating way of doing isometrics. So bodybuilders are completely behind the eight ball in isometrics. They don't know how to use the contractions, which involve a tremendous amount of tension. But those isometric contractions for an athlete are very important because, again, that's how you absorb force and then you transmit, right? So they're very important in the athletic world. If you can't handle isometric contractions, then you're not going to be explosive.
What role do you think PAP and isometrics have in a program designed for hypertrophy? What's performance?
PAP, you could potentially handle a little more weight,
Mm-hmm.
Which is not a bad thing. I mean, if you're squatting 500 and then you start using PAP, and then the next thing you know, you're squatting 520 because you're teaching your nervous system how to produce more force. That's a good thing. It's not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
The drawback, I don't want to say it's a drawback, but the problem with PAP training for hypertrophy is the way I do it, and this is up for debate. I'm not saying I know all this stuff. Like I'm not a guru in this. But what I would say is, first of all, it's debatable. Let's take one example, like a squat and a jump.
Mm-hmm.
You could do the squat first, then you could jump, or you could do the jump first, then you could squat.
Right.
I know some researchers out there say you have to do the jump first, turn on the nervous system, and then you squat.
Mm-hmm.
But I would tell you that I have found the opposite to be true. When I have people do the squat first and then the jump, I can literally see the vertical leap go up a couple inches by the time they do their third set.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is for hypertrophy, you need to have a pretty good load. You got to be in that 75, 80% load to grow. If you're using a lighter load, then that's okay, but then you're going to take it to failure. Right. Well, if you're using a lighter load and you take it to failure, how's your jump going to be? It's not going to be good, right? Because you're failing, you're tired.
Yeah.
And if you're using the heavy weight and you're doing a lot of reps, which is great for activation, but you might be fatigued. So you have to use a weight, and then you can't fatigue yourself, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So all you're doing is you're just talking to your nervous system. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use something like 55% of someone's max in a squat, but they're only going to do like 4 reps. It's just to tell your nervous system, okay, I have X amount of poundage, I got to accelerate upwards. Yeah. So then when that bar comes off their back and they do a vertical leap, their nervous system it's saying, okay, I've got this amount of weight, so then they jump higher.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not fatiguing yourself in any way in the first exercise. If you're not fatiguing yourself, then that's not good for muscle growth.
Right.
For muscle growth, you just got to push yourself harder. I don't know how to say it, but you just got to push yourself harder. What I do like is let's say you do 2 straight hypertrophy style workouts, and then you do maybe one of these athletic workouts.
Mm-hmm.
Because anything you can do to enhance your nervous system's ability is a good thing. Anytime the impulses that come from your brain to your muscles, anytime that whole pathway is working better, that can only be good.
Absolutely.
So you just have to, you can't kind of do the athletic stuff. You just can't expect to get big and muscular doing that. It has to be combined with some other stuff if your goal is hypertrophy, is what I'm saying.